Why did Jungkook suddenly disappear from the spotlight? What has he been hiding from his family all this time? And why is the father the figure he most wants to avoid? This astonishing new fact changed everything. Not even the army was ready to hear it. Why did Jungkook keep quiet all this time? What is really going on behind her smile that has been perfectly visible in front of the camera all this time? Who would have thought that, behind the calmness of his face, there was a great storm that had continued to rumble since many years ago, a storm that had finally opened, one by one, like an old wound that had been forced open again. Is it true that Jungkook chose military service not solely because of the call of the state, but because of a strong desire to disappear from the world, from the media, even from his own family? This is no ordinary story. This is the most honest and emotional confession ever from Jungkook, a BTS member who has been known as Golden Magne, a perfect figure in the eyes of fans. But now, he appears in the shadows of silence, away from the hustle and bustle of the stage, and chooses solitude in a world barely accessible to anyone. The military. But why? What prompted Jungkook to go that far? Did it all start with the family's wounds that he had buried so tightly? The rumbling news came slowly, carried by internal whispers that eventually leaked from Jungkook's own immediate surroundings. And there is nothing more shocking than this confession. Jungkook hides a dark story about his family, especially about his father. During this time, the public knew very little about Jungkook's personal life. It's always been about family. Even when the other members talk about their childhood, Jungkook always chooses to smile, change the subject, or just mention general things. But as it turns out, the reasons behind that reticence are far more complicated and heart-wrenching than we can imagine. A source close to Jungkook said he had been in deep conflict with his father since he was a teenager. An event that was never reported on, never mentioned in the media, and almost never discussed by anyone, even by the most loyal army. But the truth can no longer be hidden. It all started with a letter. A letter reportedly found by an old staffer at the agency's office. An old letter written by Jungkook to himself. An emotional letter that contains a deep outpouring of heart about his relationship with his father. In the letter, Jungkook wrote how disappointed, devastated, and alienated he felt from his own family. He felt disoriented, lost confidence, and most sadly, lost himself. If I go back, there will only be the same injuries. I'd better go before all this slowly kills me. Read a letter allegedly written by Jungkook when he was 19. I asked this why he refuses to talk about his family in public. Was this also what kept him away from all media activity, even before conscription arrived? And even more surprising, is it true that Jungkook now refuses all family visits, including from his mother? Another internal source said that during the military enlistment process, Jungkook explicitly asked not to be disturbed by the family. He wrote a special statement not to be placed in a location that is easily accessible by outsiders, and he also decided not to receive calls, letters, or other forms of communication from any party related to his biological family. Even when one of his best friends tried to connect him with his father, Jungkook refused. He doesn't want to see anyone, let alone him, said a longtime staff member who was once close to Jungkook. Why did Jungkook go that far? What exactly did Jungkook do to make Jungkook swear never to be in a relationship again? This is where it all starts to look. Jungkook harbors an unhealed trauma, an emotional confession to a senior military man believed to be his mentor. Jungkook mentioned that he had experienced severe emotional pressure from his family. Not only because of expectations, but because of an old secret that has never been known to the public, that his father had left him and his mother in difficult times, then suddenly returned when Jungkook became famous. The return of the father was not out of longing, but allegedly for economic reasons. It was like being betrayed twice. Jungkook said, according to the senior, "This is the dark side of idol's life that has always seemed perfect." And now people are starting to ask, has Jungkook been struggling alone with that pressure? Does he hide all his pain for the sake of preserving the image? And how long can it last? One of the turning points was when Jungkook accepted an invitation to perform at a big event with other BTS members, but surprisingly turned it down. Not only that, he also asked that all forms of communication with the media be limited. Even the big offers of international advertising, he refused outright. The fans back then were confused, but now, things are starting to make sense. Jungkook is not missing. He is trying to heal a wound that he has not even had time to fully recognize, and in the midst of that silence, big questions began to arise. Will Jungkook return as the same person? Or will he let the part of him that has been known to the public, the cheerful side, the strong side, the tough side, die and be buried with the dark memories that he has been hiding? The army began to divide. Some hoped Jungkook would return soon, and others chose to respect his decision to stay away. But one thing is certain, none of them can ignore the pain that is now unfolding little by little. The question now deepens. Will this be the beginning of a new chapter in Jungkook's life, or the end of the man we all know? We don't know yet. But one thing is certain, this story is not finished. Jungkook is still there, amid the silence of the military, trying to find answers, not just about his family, but about himself. And perhaps, one day, when he returns, he will bring the story to life in a way that only someone who was once completely devastated can tell. And get back up. As this story spreads, one detail after another begins to surface, and all lead to the same thing. Jungkook is in the deepest phase of emotional recovery he has ever experienced in his entire life. But who would have imagined that a Jungkook, who has been a role model for millions of people, turns out to have such a complex and imprinted wound since adolescence? What is surprising is not only the content of the conflict with his father, but also the way he reacts to it. Instead of flaunting his injuries to gain public sympathy, Jungkook chose to remain silent for years. He smiled in front of the camera, but his heart was broken. Even when the pressure became unbearable, he still didn't show it in front of the fans. And now, when all is revealed, are we really ready to face the real figure of Jungkook, who has been hidden by the demands of the entertainment world? Some loyal BTS fans admitted to feeling guilty for idolizing the image that turned out to be only the outer layer of Jungkook. We think we know him, but it turned out that we saw only what he allowed us to see, wrote one of the army on the online forum after hearing this confession. It's heartbreaking and touching how deeply Jungkook keeps his emotional distance, not because he doesn't care, but because he has too much to protect, including himself. A source close to BTS said that Taeil, a close friend of Jungkook, had tried to persuade him to talk. V knew that something was wrong. But Jungkook is too good at hiding it, he said. Even Jimin, who is known to be very sensitive to the emotions of his colleagues, also felt like a failure because he could not hug the wounds that Jungkook never showed. He's too good at keeping everything. And that's precisely what hurts. He suffers alone, Jimin said, in an unofficial opportunity recorded by staff. The most shocking thing came a few weeks after Jungkook officially served his military term. A short message, believed to be handwritten by Jungkook, was discovered by a personal staffer and given privately to one of HYB's staff. In the note, Jungkook wrote only one sentence to his mother. "Mom, I'm sorry I had to stay away, not from you, but from all the memories that made me want to run away." The message made the atmosphere inside HYB very emotional. Not a few staff cried after reading the sentence, because Jungkook's mother has always been known as a strong and loving figure. He still maintains the good name of the family, despite the storms secretly, for the sake of his son, who is now a world icon. But is it true that all this trouble is only between Jungkook and his father? Or is it actually deeper than that? Some suspect that the problems that have occurred in the past are not as simple as a quarrel between a child and a father. It is suspected that Jungkook's extended family is involved in the inner stress he is experiencing. One of Jungkook's uncles even appeared in the local media with stories that made things worse, stories that interfered with Jungkook's privacy and spread without his consent. At the time, the agency was covering the issue. But now, the facts are back in the spotlight. If it's true that his extended family is involved, then it makes perfect sense that Jungkook chose to stay away from everything, including from the opportunity to fix the relationship that actually only gives him an additional wound. Is this also the reason he is so reluctant to attend family events, even when his grandfather's health condition is declining? Questions are growing. Where is HYB's position in all this? Did the agency know from the start? Or just hiding it? A former HYBE manager who has not been active in the industry since 2023 revealed in an anonymous interview that Jungkook had asked for 2 full weeks of time off amid a big comeback schedule just to go to. The world began to speak. Not just the army, not just South Korea, but the world. International media, global news outlets, and celebrity figures from different parts of the world began to highlight the story. What used to be a vague fog in Jungkook's personal space has now turned into a storm that shakes the global entertainment world. The BBC even aired a special segment discussing the impact of mental health on K-pop idols, taking Jungkook's story as a real case of silent trauma that finally came to light. They called it one of the most touching examples of a millennial generation shaped by childhood wounds, but still forced to look perfect. Time magazine was no less touching. They released a long article with the title, Jungkook, Beyond the Lights, a son seeking forgiveness from himself. But what really makes hearts feel broken is the ARMY's worldwide response. On Twitter, now X, the hashtags #WeLoveYouJungkook, #YourPainMattersJK, and #BreakTheSilenceJK were trending for a full 72 hours in over 40 countries. Not because of promotions from agencies, not because of marketing gimmicks, but purely because of the love and empathy that springs from millions of hearts who feel it's too late to understand that their idols are human beings who can also be fragile, and soul. Thousands of fans held a peaceful rally by lighting candles and carrying papers bearing heartrending sentences. "We didn't know, and we're sorry. But we're here now. You are not alone, Jungkook. Let us take care of your heart this time." In Paris, a mural suddenly appeared on the back wall of an art gallery. The image shows the silhouette of a boy hugging his own reflection in the moonlight, with a small inscription below it. The child within Jungkook deserved better. And in Tokyo, a giant advertising screen in Shibuya shows Jungkook's face in black and white format, not for promotion, but just showing one sentence that keeps repeating, "Arigato, Jungkook. It's okay to cry now." But amid this wave of love, one name is starting to come under the spotlight, HYBE Corporation. The anger of fans began to turn towards the agency. Not because they considered HYBE to be the cause of the injury, but because they suspected HYBE knew from the beginning, yet chose to remain silent. Not a few mentioned that HYBE took advantage of Jungkook's golden boy side. Without ever giving him a safe space to be honest with the public, several open letters began to be delivered directly to the HYBE headquarters. Among them is written by a group of child rights and mental health lawyers in South Korea who call, "If it is true that agencies know that their artists harbor deep trauma, but do not provide adequate psychological protection, then this is not just negligence, it is exploitation." But HYBE has not yet released an official statement. They just put out a short sentence. "We value the personal space of our artists, and any form of support from fans means a lot to us." The neutral sentence actually ignited even more suspicion. Because for some of the army, HYBE's silence doesn't mean it's wise. It could mean letting Jungkook deal with this storm alone for a long time. Questions start rolling in. Will HYBE be responsible? Will they open a space for honest dialogue with their artists without any image frills? Or will this be the beginning of a breakdown in fan and agency relations? On the other hand, many also asked, how did the BTS members react? Do they really know nothing? Taeil finally posted a mysterious post on his Instagram story. Just a photo of the twilight sky with caption, "We grew up with different wounds, but we hugged each other in the same way." ARMY knew right away it's for Jungkook. This is not just a poem, but the code of love of a friend who does not know how to heal his friend, other than with silence full of meaning. Jimin himself has not said anything yet. But a fan site who is known to be very close to BTS's environment said that Jimin looked very emotional at the military location where he is currently serving. He reportedly received a letter from staff containing leaked interview excerpts about Jungkook's past. And from that moment on, he asked for hours of alone time.